Hey everybody, Cloudbrain here, back again with another NeoForge modding tutorial. Today will be part 2 of the blocks video, where we'll be going over how to create slabs and flower blocks. And if you haven't seen part 1, I would highly recommend going back and watching the basic block part of the tutorial before jumping into the other blocks, but it's not strictly necessary. You can watch these out of order, especially if you already know what you're doing and you've already made blocks before. But if you haven't, that would be a really good place to start. Okay, so jumping right into it, we are going to be creating the slab block first. And in order to create a slab block, typically you're going to have to create a full block version of it when you put the bottom and top slab on top of each other. And so in preparation for that, I've actually already added a plank block called Bleeding Planks, and it is basically just a basic block, except it has the extra class file here, which has all of the flammability properties because it is a plank. But otherwise, this is just a basic block, so you can follow that part of the tutorial if you need a refresher on how to do that. And I've added the plank texture down here, so this is what it's going to look like. And the reason that you need a full plank block is because when you put the two together, the model is actually just the full plank block model. And when you break it, it'll break both of them at the same time and then give you the two slabs. So that's why you'll need to implement that. But since we already went over how to create a basic block and how to create the flammability properties for another block, I decided just to implement that ahead of time, so that way we're not wasting too much time here. All right, so getting started with the registry, we are going to get some space here. We're going to say public, static, final, deferred block. All right, making sure that it is net Minecraft world level block. All right, we're going to call this bleeding underscore slab. We're going to say this is equal to blocks dot register, and then we're going to give it its name, bleeding underscore slab. Add a comma, get some space, create a new set of parentheses, add a new arrow, and say new slab block. All right, this is a special type of block that extends the block class and is just meant for creating slabs. This isn't something I've created. This is something that already exists in vanilla Minecraft, so you don't have to worry about adding anything new. So in here, just like the other ones, we are going to add block behavior dot properties dot of full copy, and we are just going to say blocks dot oak slab, right? Because it ultimately is just a slab. And then make sure to add your semicolon. So now we have our bleeding slab, and it's got the properties of an oak slab. So now that we have this in the blocks class, we are going to need to go over to the items class and add this as well. Okay, so we're in the mod items class, and if we just scroll over here and get some more space, all we're going to have to do is type public, static, final, deferred item, block item, give it its name, bleeding underscore planks. That's equal to items dot register simple block. We'll give it its name, bleeding underscore slab, add a comma, and then add the reference to the block version of this. So mod blocks dot bleeding slab, and make sure to add your semicolon at the end there. All right. Oops. Looks like I named that bleeding planks by accident. Bleeding slab. All right, so now we have the block registered to the mod blocks and mod items registry. And we actually don't need to add another texture because we're just going to be using this bleeding planks texture that I showed you before. This is all you're gonna need. You don't need any extra like crop textures or anything like that. You just use the one texture And in the model class, you define the slab-like properties that makes it look like a half block while using this full texture for multiple sides. So we can just close out of that. And as long as you have that added to your textures block folder, then you'll be all good. So now that we have the block registered and the texture added, we're going to be moving on to adding the models. So if we scroll down to Assets, Cool Stuff, Models, and Block, we can just add a new file, and we'll call this bleeding_slab.json. And in here, we are going to add a new set of curly braces and hit enter for some space. We are going to set up the parent parameter in double quotes, and we are going to set this to Minecraft:block/slab and come over here and hit enter. And like I was saying before, this makes it so that it renders the textures in a slab kind of format. So now we're going to create the textures parameter. All right. And then we're going to add a new set of curly braces and hit enter. And we are going to set 3 different parameters. We're going to set the bottom, side, and top of the texture. However, they are all going to be the same texture. So we will just do, in double quotes, bottom, and set that to cool stuff mod :block/bleeding_planks, right? And make sure you spell your texture correctly. Yep, looks like we're good. And then we are going to hit enter and set the side parameter. And it's going to be the same exact texture. So you can just select this, copy it, come down here and paste it. And then one more time, we are just going to do the top parameter, and we will paste that in again. Okay, so that is the first block model. And this is actually the model for the slab that would render on the bottom half of the block. And we're going to have to make a separate model for the slab that would render on the top end of the block. So going back into blocks, we'll create a new file. And this one we'll just call bleeding_slab_top.json. And in here, it is going to be pretty much the same as bleeding slab. So we can actually come over here, select all of this, copy it, and come back over here and paste it in. But the one thing you are going to need to change is the parent, and you're going to need to change it to Minecraft:/slab_top. So just a new parent, all the textures are the same, and those are the block models done. So now we'll just move over to the item model. So I've closed out of those, and we can just go into item now and create a new file. And we'll call this bleeding_slab.json. And in here, we are just going to open up a set of curly braces and hit enter and set the parent parameter to cool stuff mod :block/bleeding_slab. Make sure you spelled that right. Make sure you got the mod ID right and all that. And it looks like we're good. And all this does is link the item to the actual block model. And that's the reason you see the actual full block model in your inventory instead of just the flat texture. All right, so that's all done. So we can close out of that. And we'll close out of the mod items too. So now that we have the models done, we are going to be moving on to the block state. So I'm going to just minimize this models folder and open up the block states. And we are going to create a new file, bleeding_slab.json. And in here, we are going to be creating the different variants of the slab. There will be 3 different variants, one with just the slab on the bottom half of the block, one with the slab on the top half of the block, and one where the slabs are together, so on the bottom and top half of the block, which would just create a full block, and that's called a double. So, creating a new set of curly braces, we are going to create a new parameter called variance, and we'll add a new set of curly braces. And the first thing that we're going to do is set the bottom block state. And to do that, you say type equals bottom, and we'll add a new set of curly braces. And then we are going to set the model parameter. And for this one, it will be set to cool stuff mod block / bleeding _ slab. So that's just going to use the normal model. And we can come down here, hit enter. And now we're going to set the double. So type is equal to double, and create a new set of curly braces. And we are going to set the model parameter again. And this time we're going to set it to cool stuff mod block / bleeding _ planks. So this is just the planks model that I created beforehand, which is basically just a planks block. So the two half slabs end up just turning into a full plank. So now we can go down here and set up the final one and say that type equals top, add a new set of curly braces, and this model parameter is going to be set to cool stuff mod block / bleeding _ slab _ top. And this is the top model that we created just a little bit ago. And those are all the block states. So just make sure you spelled everything right, and then we can close out of that. And now that we have done the block states, we will do the lang entry real quick. So just go into your language file. For us, that's en_us.json. And in here, we are going to add a new entry called block.coolstuffmod.bleeding _ slab, and then add your colon, double quotes, and give it the name bleeding slab. All right. And it's just as simple as that for your language entry. So now it will have the name bleeding slab. And you can see that I added the plank entry up here already. So it looks like that's all good. So we can close out of this. Next, we are going to add the loot table for the slab. So to do that, we'll come over to data cool stuff mod loot tables and blocks and create a new file called bleeding _ slab.json. And this loot table is going to be a little bit different because it's not as simple as just dropping the block. Because like I said before, when you have two slabs on top of each other, that basically just becomes a plank. So in that case, we'll need to drop two slabs. So to do this, we're going to open up a new set of curly braces. We are going to set the type parameter, and we'll say it is Minecraft, craft, block. And now we'll set up the pools parameter. So pools, and then we're going to open a set of square brackets, and then think of curly braces. And we're going to set up the entries parameter, create another set of square bracket, and then curly brace. And this entry is going to be of type Minecraft item. And then after this, we are going to set up the functions, one of which will drop the two slabs when they're doubled up. So to do this, we are going to create the functions parameter, add our colon, and again, create another set of square brackets and then a curly brace. And in here, we are going to create the conditions parameter, and yet again, square bracket and curly brace. Now I know it's getting a little bit long, but just hang in with me here. So in the conditions, we are going to set the block parameter. So block, and we want to see if this is of type cool stuff mod bleeding _ slab. Now do notice that this is just the mod ID and then the block name. This is a little bit different than what we typically do, whereas typically we add like block / block/bleeding slab. We will not be doing it specifically for this because this is strictly the block ID. This is what you use when using the /give command, the mod ID, and then the block name, which is why it's like this, specifically for this. So then we're just going to hit enter, and we are going to set our condition parameter here, and we are going to be looking at the condition Minecraft :block_state_property. So we're going to be looking at the block state property of this block and hit enter. And the properties that we're going to be looking for, make sure to add a set of curly braces, is type, and double. So this is conditional on the block state property, and the property that we're looking for is that it is type double. And you'll remember back in our block states folder, we had bottom, we had top, and we had double. This is the same double. So now we're going to follow this down to the first square bracket that we see here, and you can see it's connected to conditions. And we are going to hit enter. And that should add that comma right there. And we are going to set the count parameter to 2.0. And then below that, we are going to set the function parameter in double quotes to Minecraft:set_count. Okay, so this is going to be our first function all right here. And all this function does is, if it's a double when it's broken, give you back 2. The default is to drop 1, which is why we're specifically changing it to 2, but not necessarily specifying to drop 1 block anywhere else in the file. And now we are just going to add one more function. So this time you'll have to manually add your comma and then hit enter and create a new set of curly braces. I'm not sure why it doesn't add a comma when you hit enter from that curly brace, but for some reason it wasn't happening for me. So just make sure you add that manually. And in here, we are going to set the function parameter to Minecraft:explosion_decay. And I believe this is just like the other block loot tables, which calculates how it is going to drop the items when it is exploded. So that's all that is. And we can just come down to this second square bracket here that is connected to functions. So we're going to come down to that and hit enter. So we're now outside of functions, but still inside of entries. And we are going to set the name parameter here. And we're going to set it to cool stuff mod :bleeding_slab. And again, it is going to be in this format, just like this one up here. So make sure you're not adding the block / part for this one. And then we are going to scroll down to this next square bracket that is connected to entries and hit enter. So we've left entries, but we're still in pools. And we are going to set the roles parameter to 1.0 because this is only going to be rolled once. And then finally come down to this last square bracket and hit enter and set the random_sequence parameter to cool stuff mod :block/bleeding_slab. And you can see this time we are using block /. All right. And this just connects this entire loot table to the slab block. All right. And we have done it. That is all you're going to have to do for this loot table. It is a little bit of a different one compared to the others, but we got through it. It's all good. So we can close out of that. And there are 2 more small things that I'm going to want to do. And that is to add it to the creative tab and then add the block to the axe tag so that when we break the block with an axe, it actually breaks faster. So to add this to the creative tab, we're going to open up mod tabs. So to add this to the creative tab, we are going to open up UI, go into mod tabs, and then we are going to go down here and type in output.accept. And then we're going to put in mod blocks.bleeding slab and then .get. All right, so now the block should be appearing in our creative tab, specifically our blocks creative tab. So we can close out of this. And then the last thing that we're going to want to do is scroll down to data, Minecraft, tags, blocks, mineable, and then axe.json. And we are going to come in here and make sure you add comma and then a new set of double quotes. And we will add cool stuff mod colon leading underscore slab. We'll actually also add cool stuff mod colon leading underscore planks, just because I forgot to add those earlier. And that is all that it's going to take for that. Now they will mine faster when you're using an axe, so we can close out of this. And that is going to be all for this slab block. So I will start up Minecraft in debug mode, and I will see you there. All right, so we are in Minecraft now. And if we were to open up our creative tabs and scroll over, go into cool blocks, we can see that our bleeding slab is in fact here, and it looks like it is rendering correctly, at least for now. And if we were to place it down, yep, it looks like it is working. And if we were to place two on top of each other, looks like that's working as well. And if we were to place one just on the top, yep, looks like all of that is rendering correctly. Make sure you check all three of those block states. And the last thing that we can do to test this out is to come up and grab an axe real quick and just make sure that the loot table stuff is working. So we will chop these. All right, look, yep, got one. All right, and then if we chop the full block, should get two. Yep, went from 3 to 5, so it looks like we got 2 there. Yep. So it looks like all of the loot table stuff is working, the model stuff is working, the texture stuff is working. So it looks like everything is functioning great for the slab block. So I'll say that the testing was a success. All right, that wraps up the slab block. So now let's move on to the flower block, or in my case, with the texture that I have, technically a mushroom. However, it is going to act like a flower and not like a mushroom because the mushroom block class allows you to actually grow a giant mushroom, and I don't necessarily want that feature. So I'm just going to use the flower block class, which you can use for suspicious stew effects, but I'm not actually going to use it for that. I'm just going to have it be a super basic flower block. So, like the other blocks, we start by adding it to the block and item registry. So in mod blocks, we can get some space here and type in public static final deferred block. All right. And then we will give it the name big underscore mushroom. And we'll say this is equal to blocks dot register. Give it its name, big underscore mushroom. Add a comma and hit enter to get some space. Create a new set of parentheses. Create a little arrow. And say new flower block. And now that we have this, the first thing that we're going to set is the suspicious stew properties, or the suspicious stew effect. And we're just going to set that to empty so that it doesn't necessarily have any effect on the suspicious stew. And then, like the other blocks, we will create our block behavior dot properties dot of full copy. And we will use blocks dot brown mushroom for our copy, and make sure you have your semicolon at the end there. So that is the block added to the block registry. Now we will open up mod items and add the block to our items registry. So we will get some space here and type in public static final deferred item block item big mushroom is equal to items dot register simple block item. Give it its name big underscore mushroom and assign it to the block. So mod blocks dot big mushroom and add your semicolon. All right, so we have it added to both of our registers now. So we can actually close out of both of those. And the next thing that we're going to move on to is adding our texture in. So let me just go grab the texture real quick. And let's scroll down to textures block and then drag this into the blocks folder and hit refactor and add. And now we have our little mushroom PNG. So this is what the mushroom looks like. It's bigger size-wise than stuff like the brown mushroom and the red mushroom, which is why I just called it the big mushroom. I didn't necessarily make it after anything, so it's kind of generic. And as you'll notice, it is just like an item texture. You don't need to do anything special texture-wise to make it a cross block. That's going to be in the model that we're going to be setting all that up. So it's just a normal item texture, so we can close out of that. And speaking of, the next thing that we are going to be doing is adding the models. So we can go into assets, cool stuff mod models block and create a new file and call this one big_mushroom.json. And in here, it's pretty simple. We'll just create an open set of curly braces. We're going to set the parent parameter. We're going to set it to Minecraft::block/cross. All right. And this is what makes it have those two textures that are in a cross formation that if you look closely at flowers, they kind of have, and gives it a 3D-ish effect. And then we can come down here and then set a new parameter called render_type. And we are going to set this to Minecraft::cutout. And what this does is tell it that there are pixels that we're going to want to leave blank. Otherwise, you're going to have your texture in the cross formation and the blank space will actually just be black pixels. This makes it so that those black pixels don't show up. They get basically cut out, so you just see your texture. And then the last thing that we're going to be setting up here is the textures parameter. And we're going to open up another set of curly braces. And we are going to set the cross parameter to cool stuff mod ::block/big_mushroom. And this just confirms that we're setting the texture in a cross pattern, and it's going to be using this texture that we just imported. All right, so that's it for the block model. So now we can minimize that and create a new item model and also call this big_mushroom.json. And in here, we are going to be using the typical item model stuff, not like how we've been using for the other blocks, because as you may have noticed, flowers and mushrooms are always actually just the texture. It's never actually like 3D rendered like a cross block in your inventory. So we're just going to do this normally. So create a new set of curly braces, set the parent parameter to Minecraft::item/generated. And then we are going to hit enter and set the textures parameter and open a new set of curly braces. And then set the layer 0 parameter. And we're going to set this to cool stuff mod ::block/big_mushroom. And that's going to be it for that. We've just got our one layer, and it's just going to be the mushroom texture, and it's just going to look like the texture that we imported. So that is both of the models done, and we can close out of that and minimize this. So the next thing that we have to do is add a block state. So just go into your block states and create a new file called big_mushroom.json. And in here, it's going to be super simple because we only have one variant. This isn't going to be a bunch of different block states. So just create a new set of curly braces, add the variance parameter, and then open up a new set of curly braces, add a blank parameter, and one more time, open up a set of curly braces, and then set the model parameter to cool stuff mod ::block/big_mushroom. And that's going to be it. We're just connecting the block state to this one mushroom model, and that's all we need. So we can close out of that and minimize this. Next, we are going to want to add this to our lang file. So go to your respective lang file. For us, that's en_us, and open it up. Go to wherever you're setting the block entries and hit enter. And then we are going to type in block.coolstuffmod.big_mushroom. And we're going to give it the name big mushroom. So now that the language entry is set, we are going to wrap this up with a loot table entry. So let's go over to data coolstuffmod loot tables blocks and create a new file. And of course, we'll call this big_mushroom.json. So this loot table is pretty basic. It's just a normal dropping of the item. So we can actually come to our checkered block and copy all of this, to be honest, and paste it in here, and just change the name to coolstuffmod big_mushroom, and then coolstuffmod block / big_mushroom. Now, if you haven't been following along with any of the other block tutorials and you just jumped to the flower block, basically this is the type of thing that's going to be dropping an item. So in our case, it's just a block as opposed to a chest that's having loot generated for it or something like that. And then we have our pools, though we technically only have one pool and one entry. And this is just all the items that could drop. We're saying that we're only going to want to roll this table once, or roll for this table once, which means we're only going to be dropping one entry. We have our conditions, and the only condition that we have here is survives explosion, which is a pre-built condition that tests for if it should drop the item when it's been destroyed in an explosion. Sometimes it'll drop it, sometimes it won't. If it wasn't destroyed with an explosion, then it won't matter. This will always pass. This is our entry for our item, and it is just going to drop a type of item, and the name of that item is going to be the mod ID and then the item name. And then this random sequence down here is what connects the loot table to this block. All right, so now that you are all refreshed, we are done with the loot table. Like I said, it was exactly like the basic block, so we really didn't have to change much. So we can close out of both of those and then minimize all of this. So the last thing that we are going to do is add this to our creative tabs so that we have access to it easily. So we're going to go up to UI, open up mod tabs, go down to the block section and add output.accept mod blocks dot big mushroom dot get. All right, so now it has been added to our creative tab. We can close out of this, and it is now ready to test. That should be all set up. So I will launch Minecraft in debug mode, and I will see you over there. So actually, before we jump into the game, I noticed that I actually did not update the name of my texture. So we're actually going to have to refactor and rename this to big mushroom and refactor that. Always make sure that your texture name actually matches the texture that you're using. So now we will jump over to Minecraft in debug mode to test it out. Okay, so we are now in the game. So if we go up to our creative tab and scroll over to our cool blocks, we can see that the big mushroom is in fact here. And we can place it down, and you can see that it has this cross block texture, this little X here. And there are no black pixels, it just looks like a mushroom. So it looks like everything is rendering just fine. And if we were to go into survival mode and break these, it looks like, yep, it is dropping our big mushroom. So that looks good. It looks like that was successful. Okay, and that finally does it for this little block series. I apologize again for having to break this down into 2 videos, but it was just a lot, and I had to do a bit of recording after messing up some of the blocks. But we got there in the end, and if you had any issues, just leave a comment down below and let me know what you're seeing, and I will try to help you out as best I can. Thank you everybody for watching this video and sticking along with this tutorial. If it's helped you out, please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, I have a link to a Ko-fi page in the description. Ko-fi is just a donation platform where you can just send little tips and things like that. And it's also a place where I post things like updates and screenshots and that kind of stuff. So even if you don't necessarily have the funds to donate or anything like that, that's perfectly okay. You can still head over there and see updates about how the videos are going, if there are any delays or anything like that. And once we hit the goal on the Ko-fi page, I plan to have a big bug fix / Q&A / feature implementation stream where we'll go over your guys' mods and any issues that you may have or any ideas that you want to implement, just testing it out, and just overall hanging out and having fun. So once we hit that goal, I will basically announce a day that we'll be doing the stream. The stream will probably last for a while, so if you want to see that happen, head over to the Ko-fi page. The next topic that we're going to be going over is crafting recipes, and I may go over stuff like cooking recipes and things like that as well, but it'll definitely be shapeless and shaped crafting recipes at least. Make sure to turn on those notifications so that you know as soon as the video's out. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.